It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the three films of March 4th, 2005. We've got a couple notable movies in particular, one that was a big hit, one that was not a big hit in general, but I thought it was pretty good, and then one that was a complete failure with a couple of notable names attached to it. But let's go ahead and just get right to it. Let's start off with the big new release of the weekend, the big hit of the weekend, Vin Diesel starring in Disney's The Pacifier. Now, I know what you're thinking, and yes, this has the makings of a really bad movie, something like an Are We There Yet, or A Son of the Mask, or even A Man of the House, but prepare to be surprised at what I have to say about this movie, because this is Vin Diesel, and he plays a Navy SEAL who, after a failed rescue mission, is assigned as a babysitter to a dead man's family. The family, including such people as Faith Ford as the mother, Brittany Snow from American Dreams as the teenage daughter, Max Thoreau, and also, I believe Morgan York, I'm sorry, from Cheaper by the Dozen. I thought that was somebody else, yeah, this is directed by Adam Shankman, written by the guys who did Reno 911, and I think because of that, because of those people right there, the movie is not as bad as you think it is. I would even go as far as to say it's a fun little movie. Is it a great movie? Oh God, no. It's not a good movie by any means necessary. I would put this on the same level as something like Daddy Daycare from a couple of years ago. A movie that is clearly going for something that's made for a typical family audience, or even Cheaper by the Dozen. But, yeah, this is a movie that's clearly going for the kids, and maybe some adults will get a kick out of it because of especially with this movie, considering that Vin Diesel was in it in an against type role at the time. But keep in mind, he was also the Iron Giant in the obvious Iron Giant, and he's also a closeted nerd too. I mean, he has tattoos and plays Dungeons and Dragons that are very similar to that are fantasy related. At least I thought he did, but I know that he plays Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, so. Yeah, he's not just the Dom Toretto, he's not just family from the Fast and Furious movies. Don't forget, he's also Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy, too. So, yeah, this guy has a lot of range to him. And, yeah, not everything he does is great, but in here, he actually does kind of make this work. I mean, it's obvious he's going for the similar style of filmmaking that Arnold Schwarzenegger did when he did Kindergarten Cop and Twins, do something outside of his norm. But those are classic movies by a great director, and this goes down that rabbit hole, that same formula, like I said, of Twins and Kindergarten Cop, but doesn't have quite the same spark as Twins and Kindergarten Cop does, but it does still make for a fun, engaging movie. It can be funny more times than not, and then when it has the gross-out humor and does stuff with, like, the duck being, like, the comic relief, yeah, that shit can get old pretty quickly, and I will say the third act is kind of a letdown in particular because it's just kind of a mediocre climax that we've seen done to death and doesn't really add a whole lot to it. I mean, the movie itself is fine. It's a perfectly solid film. And it's a movie that I remember seeing in theaters 20 years ago, and I've watched it several times because it still plays on TV every once in a while. Like, if you watch Freeform, you can still see it on there every once in a while. I think it's been on USA Network a couple of times. The times I've watched it, it still holds up. It's a movie that's not perfect. It's not entirely funny, but it does have enough laughs and enough heart to it to make a solidly entertaining movie. And I think it's because of the people behind the scenes. I mean, Tom Lennon and Robert Grant have done a lot of great comedy over the years through various projects. Adam Shankman's one of those great comfort food directors. Like, whenever you see him direct a movie, kind of like with Sean Levy, he knows enough to entertain the audiences while not feeling like you've been completely insulted by your intelligence and being completely insulted by it. And the movie does just enough. It's just enough to say it's a perfectly solid film. It's an enjoyable film. It's a film that I think is very fun if you go into it with the right mindset. It's not a classic movie by any means, but it's definitely a film that I think is a lot better, all things considered. And I do recommend it as a good, fun movie, fun classic Disney live-action style movie. I mean, it's live-action style. Disney style live-action movie is what I'm trying to say. But, yeah, it's a fun movie. Not a classic by any means necessary, but I think you can get a couple good watches out of it if you go into it with the right mindset. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, a sequel to Get Shorty, the PG-13 sequel to Get Shorty, mind you. Be Cool. Again, kind of like with The Pacifier, you can kind of look at this movie and go into it expecting what you think you're going to expect, but really look into it. I mean, the original Get Shorty is a classic movie. It's a great film, very funny, very sharp, very clever. Just a great movie bolstered by a ton of great performances by Travolta, Rene Russo, Gene Hackman, Danny DeVito, and the unique direction of Harry Sonnenfeld. So now, 10 years later, you've got this sequel, Be Cool, based off of another book by Elmore Leonard, this time directed by F. Gary Gray. And in this one, Chili Palmer has now has gone from a streetwise mobster to a movie producer, and he's back in Hollywood. This time, he fickles around. He's done with the movie industry in general and veers into the music business, tangling with Russian mobsters and gangster rappers, and taking a talented, feisty young singer named Linda Moon, played by Christiana Milian, who was just seen in Man of the House last week. And let me tell you, this is a much better movie than this, under his wing. From the recording studio to an Aerosmith concert to the MTV Music Awards, he manipulates events to watch them play out the Chili way. Using his signature blend of wise guy skills and negotiation tactics, it's a dangerous mission and everyone is looking for the next big hit. You see also in the cast Uma Thurman, James Woods, Vince Vaughn as a Wigger music producer, Dwayne Johnson showing off his comedic side after being in so many action movies, Cedric the Entertainer, Harvey Keitel, Andre Benjamin, Robert Pastorelli, Danny DeVito reprising his character from the last movie, Martin Weir, Seth Green, Steven Tyler, James Woods is in the first part of the movie. It was not a big hit when it came out. It was met with mostly mixed reviews and did a box office of only $55 million, and it was one of the few successes, if you will, in MGM's final years as a solo producer before switching over to a production company. Like it's been with Fox, and then Warner Brothers, and then Paramount, and now it's with Amazon. And most people will see this as an unnecessary sequel, and yes, it's an unnecessary sequel, but here's the thing. It's an unnecessary sequel that is surprisingly really good, especially considering this is a PG-13 sequel to an R-rated movie. And much like how the first film satirizes the way of making movies very well, they bring in that same element to the music world, which, considering all the stupid stuff that the music industry has given us over the last couple of years, it definitely deserves not only to be satirized, but taken down a notch big time. But it does a nice job of working with it. It's not as much as they could have done with it, but then again, it's the PG-13 rating. I mean, like I said, Get Shorty was an R-rated comedy. This is a PG-13 rated sequel, and that's maybe the film's overall biggest problem, is that we don't get a lot of those heavy R-rated jokes that the first film had, and that's really disappointing. But to be fair, they do use the one F-bomb in the PG-13 rated movie you get, and do it well in the first bit of the movie, where John Travolta's talking to James Woods about the whole thing about, you know how you can only say the F word in is once in a PG-13 movie, and James Woods is just like, oh yeah? And John Travolta's just like, you know what I say to that? Fuck that. And then that's it. That's the last time you hear it. Which, yeah, the comedy's very good here. The stuff with the Russian mobsters is actually pretty funny. The stuff with Andre Benjamin is also really funny, too. I really like him a lot in this. Vince Vaughn and Dwayne Johnson play these stereotype characters so well, and they provide a lot of the film's strongest laughs. Dwayne Johnson is great in this, but Vince Vaughn, in a role that could have easily gone completely off the rails, is absolutely brilliant in this. He's friggin' hilarious in this movie. Like, he really is great. Like, he's one of the funniest things about the whole movie in general. The cast overall is great. They all have at least one funny moment within the film themselves. They play their parts well. There's never any person in this movie that kind of feels left out or has this bad role in the movie. Yeah, it's nowhere near as good as Get Shorty, but at the same time, it's got a tough burden on its part trying to make a movie that's not only on a level as with the first film set, but just to be good. And for what they tried to accomplish, they did a pretty good job with it. Does it have flaws? Absolutely. But then again, every movie has a lot of really bad flaws. This one's flaws don't take away the overall enjoyment of the film, and there is a lot to like in Be Cool. It's very funny, it can be silly at some points, but it works in the film's favor. It's just a good, fun time. It's a really funny film. I really enjoy it a lot. If you like the first Get Shorty and you go into it with the right mindset, you can definitely find a lot to admire about Be Cool. I think it's a really funny film. I recommend it highly. Definitely check it out. So, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, and that is Adrian Brody and Keira Knightley in the thriller, The Jacket. So the film centers around Adrian Brody, who's a wounded Gulf War veteran who returns to his native Vermont suffering from bouts of amnesia. He's hitching and gets picked up by a stranger, and things go wrong when a cop pulls them over and is murdered by a stranger. The vet is wrongfully accused of the killings and lands in an asylum, and a disreputable doctor played by Chris Christopherson provides a couple of experimental therapies, restraining him in a modified straight jacket-like device, and locks him in a cadaver drawer in the basement morgue. During the course of the treatment, he gets flashbacks and visions of the future where he can foresee that he's about to die in 4 days' time. He just doesn't know how, and thus commences the classic race against time from this tortured veteran with an expiration date. And apparently it's a time travel movie, too, because he could travel into the year 2007, which, man, this is a movie that has a lot of good ideas, but just... the consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, I think, kind of sums it up. The Jacket is a case of creepy style over substance. Like, you want to know why the hell this is happening to Adrian Brody. Like, why is he time traveling in this case? Like, why is the doctor putting him in the morgue? And like, what's this going to do to affect the whole thing, to affect this thing in general? And I think there's a lot of problems with the way the story plays out, because there is just so much there that you think could easily work. This is a good idea, a strong cast to work with here. I didn't mention half the rest of the cast in this movie, besides Brody, Knightley, and Christopherson. Jennifer Jason Leigh, Kelly Lynch, the late Brad Renfro, Daniel Craig, pre-James Bond. I mean, just an incredible, incredible cast in this movie. And a good idea, too. Just bad execution all the way through. And it just ruins the complete ebb and flow of what the movie is trying to accomplish. And I really think that hurts the film in the long run, because there are a lot of good questions being asked in this movie. Like, how is Adrian Brody able to go forward in time to see this? Like, how is he back in 1992 all of a sudden? Like, how is he going to die in 4 days? Like, all these good ideas just poorly executed in a really lackluster script by people that I think clearly were not meant to make this movie a great film in general. I think they were just there to take it because they thought, hey, I got the script, I got these actors to work with here, maybe there's an opportunity here for me. And I've never seen anything that this director, John Mayberry, has done, nor have I seen anything from this writer in particular, Messi Tejgiran, who's like an Iranian-American screenwriter. Although she did direct Last Night. No, I'm sorry, I thought that was Late Night. I thought that was the Mindy Kaling, Emma Thompson movie, but no, this is a different movie called Last Night with Keira Knightley, also in that film. But yeah, I've never seen anything that these people have made since then, and probably for a good reason. Yeah, Steven Soderbergh and George Clooney are the producers, don't get me wrong, but it's not enough to carry the film in general. And it's a disappointment, because you can see the ideas there are really cool. The ideas there are really refreshing, and some of them actually are kind of intriguing and terrifying at times. But again, it's just like what the consensus says. It's a creepy style over substance movie that just doesn't work out in the film's favor when it matters the most. And it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate mess of a film that just makes you want more, and it just doesn't give it to you, unfortunately. So that's a hard pass on The Jacket, sadly. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll head into the next week of March with 4 notable movies, including Blue Sky Studios' first film following Ice Age, the star-studded animated robots, Bruce Willis starring in the thriller Hostage. We also have, I lost it for a second, Kevin Costner and Joan Allen in the comedy The Upside of Anger. And we also have Danny Boyle's latest film, Millions. So we'll take a look at those 4 movies all in the next episode. So don't forget to check that out tomorrow. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.